I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, it's too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation. I refuse to think we need saving. Something good will come from creation. And when we think that the world is too anxious, we'll adapt, evolve, survive, and save it. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong.
I wonder if any of you over on YouTube are yelling at me that my sound is off. I was just talking to the TikTok people. That's it. That's it. I hope you can hear me now. Hope you can hear me now. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian whistleblower. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Man, I would go on Rumble, but it's wonky, man. I just can't figure it out. So I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian whistleblower, 25-year Christian preacher, now the Christian whistleblower, exposing the Judeo-Christian matrix. I'm the OG of that. And tonight we got a banger for you. We got a banger. Boom. We got a big banger. BAPHOMET, the real story. I've wanted to talk about BAPHOMET for a whizzle, but never got the chance. Kylie says the sound's good. I trust it's good over on TikTok. I got my big, huge honking Samsung tablet out for TikTok. And I got to warn you, YouTube, we're starting to get a lot of people on TikTok. So let's step it up. Thank you, Crow. Appreciate it. Thank you, Kylie. All right. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We're going to do it a little bit different tonight because we're going to move into, David M. Thanks so much for a great gift of $25. You don't even know how much I need it. I don't want to be the guy that says, oh boy, I really need it, but thank you so much for sending it. And I got a late one. Blake, $20. You just sent it, bro. That's the only reason you're not on the screen. Thank you so much. Also got a rod order for $50. So we're really excited about that. And speaking of rods, boom. Why do you say we start a new segment right at the beginning of the show? Let's rock the rods. So if you have a rod question, all you have to do is put it in the chat in all capital letters, whether you're on TikTok. On TikTok, make sure you put it in as all caps because that's the only way I'll see it. Even though this Samsung screen is bigger, I'm still staring into lights. I got blue blocker sunglasses on that are tinted because of the lights. So please put in all caps. Let's just show you a real quick review how they work. Is Jeff wearing a pink coat tonight? It's not totally out of the question, but not tonight. Is Jeff wearing a Christian Whistleblower Plastic Jesus t-shirt? Yes, he is. That's how the rods work. So if you have a question for the rods, whether you're on TikTok or whether you are on the other platforms, go ahead and put your question in all capitals, and we'll go ahead and answer your question. I mentioned that I got a rods order. I do have plenty of materials to make rods. So if you do want to get your own set of rods that I make by hand for each and every one of you, go ahead and send me an email to Gotham Ltd at gmail.com, and I'll tell you how you can get the rods. That's Gotham like in Batman, Ltd like in limited, at gmail.com, and I will send you your very own rods. Wednesday attendance hasn't been so bueno, so I thought, why wait until 9 o'clock? That was an effort to help the West Coasters because they still tend to be my largest audience. But let's just show you how this works. Is starting at 8 o'clock on Wednesdays okay? The rods say yes. Is anybody going to send in a rod question? The rods say no, so maybe we'll just go on past that. Dead Wolf says, can I make my rods work? The rods say yes. Did you get the rods from me, Dead Wolf? If you didn't, sometimes rods aren't crafted that well. These are made out of pure copper. Copper, very, very conductive to the, esoteric vibes that they run on. I already am reading the Aura Linda book, but I'll go ahead. Kylie says, thanks for being on earlier. Should Jeff read the Aura Linda book? Yes, I've got it. I've got it in PDF. I got so much stuff to read. I got so much stuff to write. I'm almost done with the Assault on Aquarius book. That should be available really, really soon. I forgot my rings. I feel naked. Some of you on TikTok are used to seeing me kind of naked because I'm doing the cold plunge videos, but they're also posted on YouTube. Oops, I don't know if I can say YouTube here, but anyway, they're there. So yes, I will read the Aura Linda book. I think I started, it was kind of boring, but I'll press on. So we're going to go ahead and push on with Pride. TikTok, I'm sorry that the the shorts don't show up on the TikTok feed because I can't stream through TikTok yet from my Restream platform. But I just got a note today that I'm open for full live privileges on TikTok. So maybe that will change. I apologize, TikTok, for the fan spinning, but it gets super duper hot in here. Dead Wolf, I think the plastic handles are your problem. You need to get copper handles because you need to get the conductivity from your hands as well. So that would be my advice to you. I think it's probably the plastic handles. Go to no handles. You can just have no handles and just kind of hold them a little looser, or get yourself some copper handles. I even did the research on gold, and gold is probably not as good for rods. So again, you can get your rods from me, $50. That includes the shipping. Send me an email, gothamltd@gmail.com, and I'll get your address. I'll tell you the PayPal address, which is the same as my regular, still gothamltd@gmail. And you can pay me through PayPal, and I'll get them right to you. But since we're not getting a ton of TikTok or of rod questions, we're going to go ahead and move on with
Look at this video. Look at this video. This is what's wrong with America right here. We got a pregnant woman having a change in AC filter by herself. No husband in sight. No, she probably doesn't even know who the dad of the baby is. This is the problem. These women in America are just having these babies. They're not staying with the dads. The dads aren't sticking around. They're picking these low life, deadbeat dads. Nobody around to help them. Just having to do all this herself. And she's just gonna get bigger. She's gonna get bigger and bigger, more and more pregnant.
Did he get you, folks? Did he get you? Dagger sent me that one. He got me, so don't feel bad if he got you.
This is completely insane. Check this out.
So if the Earth rotates around the Sun once a year, and in that one rotation there are 365 little rotations, representing 1 day per little rotation, equating to 365 with one large rotation, and 365 divided by 28 is 13. So you mean to tell me that we could equally split a year into 13 equal months? And every month having 28 days. The beginning of the month starts on a Monday, the end of the month ends on a Sunday. And hold the phone, because you're telling me that September, sept meaning 7, is the 9th month. October, oct meaning 8, is the 10th month. November, nov meaning 9, is the 11th month. And December, this decagon is 10. But wait, what if the end of the year wasn't in December? What if January was actually the 11th month? Because December would be the 10th, November the 9th, October the 8th, and September the 7th. So January becomes the 11th, February the 12th, and March is the 13th, the last month of the year. And the beginning of the year would be the spring equinox, when everything begins to grow, renew, and life starts to flourish. Wouldn't it make more sense that that would be the beginning of the year?
Why don't they do it the way that makes sense? It's almost like they're trying to disrupt our natural rhythms and our natural cycles. And you've been watching the recent deep programs. We've been talking about the golden age. We kind of finished that up tonight with BAPHOMET. And the Judeo-Christian fear and guilt mind control matrix has intentionally upset our natural cycles.
There's even angels in gas station bathrooms. Check this out.
Yes, God is real, because he teleported an angel into a gas station bathroom to save my life. When I was 20 years old, I was living in Florida with my boyfriend, now husband, and I was driving home to Missouri for Christmas. My path took me through Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, and onwards. And when I stopped at a gas station in Alabama, I went in to use the bathroom. The women's door was red, it was big, it was squeaky, it was wooden, and it was heavy. And I distinctly remember pushing open this bathroom door.
So anyway, yada, 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 she saw Jesus in the bathroom. Now, I'm not saying that Jesus, the egregore, Jesus isn't real. So it couldn't have been real Jesus. You can't prove that Jesus was real outside the Bible, not even if you're on TikTok. So if Jesus was real, did he have to wait till Chicky Poo got into a nasty old bathroom in Alabama? Not that there's anything wrong with Alabama, to actually get her attention? That sounded like a personal problem to me, but I mean, this is just ridiculous, the stuff that Christians believe in. If you're wondering why I got that House MDiv up there, because I am House MDiv. You know House MD from the TV show? He was investigating, always coming up with the diagnosis. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to get the diagnosis here, folks. And I've been doing it since 1999, diagnosing spiritual anomalies, because the answers are rarely on the surface. We go to the hidden patterns, the symbols, the history, the esoterica, the anomalies. We go into the forbidden knowledge. I diagnose, I question, I investigate, I connect, and I reveal the truth. That's what I'm all about. Let's move on.
What I'm here to tell people is that when Project Bluebeam is used, again, it's not going to be by the United States. It's not going to be by national. It's going to be by global government. They're the ones who are going to use this stuff. And it's going to be not just a bunch of pretty holograms. They're going to be using it for religious figures. They're going to have Jesus in the sky, but it's not just going to be holograms. There's going to be voice-to-skull technology. It's also going to be used. They're going to be able to have these figures speak to every human being on the planet. Imagine the impact of that they're going to be able to see the figure and also hear the figure talking to them. You know, it's amazing. I think that is the particular reason why Jesus said in the Bible, my sheep hear my voice and they will recognize my voice.
That's a former FBI agent. And it also says in the Bible that every eye will see him because he's coming on the cloud. I know you think it says clouds, but if you get into the original Greek, which I have a Bible college degree in 200,000 years in the Greek and Hebrew scriptures, it says cloud. Didn't make a lot of sense back when they wrote it down. That's why they lied and said it was clouds. But he's coming on the cloud, folks. Is Jesus AI? Maybe. Let's roll on.
Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz. In the sphere. Come on.
Okay, hold on. I saw so much shit in the movie, The Wizard. So we all know the story to where he's a facade, but he's giving the lion like the courage and the brain for the scarecrow and all that, right? For the scarecrow, he says, "Hey, okay, I need a brain, right?" And he's like, "Well, I'll give you a diploma so you can be smart." And he gives him a diploma, and he's all smart again, right? And it shows that once he gives the diploma, he says, "Oh, this is your diploma for X, Y, and Z, e pluribus unum." I'm like, hold on. Now, if people don't know what e pluribus unum means, it's on the back of your dollar. E pluribus unum, from one comes many. Sounds like a cult. From one comes many.
And they're also teaching you need a diploma to be smart.
Exactly. Right.
So there's that. Propaganda. I mean, that's early Hollywood propaganda.
Yeah. I find it interesting that, yes, he said that. And I'm like, wait, e pluribus unum. Okay. Then he gives him a diploma. And like how you said, to be smart, you got to graduate and all this other stuff. So speaking of ancient Latin, doctor, does anybody know what that really means? Because when you get a degree, like a doctor or whatever, so doctor in Latin, docere, is actually the root word for docile, for document, indoctrinate. They're all related. So to become a doctor, get a degree, you're indoctrinated now.
And you're docile.
The movie's based on the Federal Reserve.
Oh, shit.
You guys know the real kind of undertone of Wizard of Oz, right?
It's based on the Federal Reserve.
Yes.
So here's some black dudes dropping some wisdom. Here's some black dudes dropping some wisdom. This is why I say we're not alone. I get in trouble with some people, but there's red people, black people, brown people, red, black, brown, yellow, and white people that are sick and tired of this Judeo-Christian fear and guilt mind control matrix. And there's also some red, brown, black, yellow, and white people that is trashy. So I do not confine my associations. I don't confine my work to any one race. Now, I'm better with the white race because, in case you didn't notice, I'm as white as they come. If you look up white guy in the dictionary, there's my picture. I'm a white guy, but I would much rather work with red, yellow, black, brown people that hate, that are trying to expose the Judeo-Christian fear and guilt mind control matrix than white people that are selling out and pushing the Judeo-Christian nonsense. But that's just me. We're not alone. Come on now.
Here's what occult symbols really mean. First, we have the all-seeing eye, and this is found everywhere, even on our money. It's a symbol of enlightenment and knowledge, but if you look deeper, you'll find that it represents the awakening consciousness of the universe itself. The pentagram is a 5-pointed star, often associated with magic. 4 of the points represent the material elements of earth, air, fire, and water. The top represents spirit, symbolizing the power of spirit over matter. The Ouroboros is a serpent eating its own tail that symbolizes eternity and the cycle of life, death, and rebirth, and the idea that the end of one universe is the beginning of a new one. The inverted cross is usually thought to be an evil symbol, but it actually represents St. Peter's crucifixion and is really a symbol of faith. The hexagram is composed of 2 triangles pointing in opposite directions. It's a powerful symbol in occultism, representing the union of opposites and balance in the universe. Finally, the unicursal hexagram has a similar meaning, except that instead of using 2 triangles, it's drawn with a single line, transforming it from a symbol of duality to unity.
I must have gotten in trouble on TikTok because they restricted my live privileges for 10 minutes. I don't know what I did, but they said I can't my blah, blah for 10 minutes. So we're just going to press on with pride. And have you ever wondered why, wonder why? Not why she went away, but why have the Christians worked so hard to make sure all these esoteric symbols go away? It's almost like they can't take the competition. It's almost they're scared.
Women are the kind of people that people come out of.
So you just think they're meant to have babies? That's it. They're just a vessel.
No, it doesn't take any talent to simply reproduce biologically.
So that piece of shit is Doug Wilson. He's a pastor who leads Christ Church in Moscow, Idaho. Oh, he's also the personal pastor of Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, which actually makes a lot of sense. Well, for the first time ever, I think this fraud got the right critique just at the right time from the right person. Take a look.
I have no problem. Listen, real quick, Pastor. I have no problem attacking wolves in sheep's clothing. I have no problem attacking a man who wrote that American slavery was mutually harmonious between the slave master and the slave. That's you. I have no problem attacking a man who proudly says he wants to do away with the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote. I have no problem attacking a man like yourself who sits here incoherently supporting an incoherent, unwinnable, illegal war in Iran. I have no problem attacking you, a man who is the religious leader of Pete Hegseth, a man who's a cosplay crusader who's leading some type of crusade, probably you put him on, as a Secretary of Defense, getting Americans and innocent civilians killed. I wish you would be a better Christian. I wish you would open up the Bible. I wish you would meet the Jesus that I met when I went to an all-boys Jesuit Catholic high school. The Jesus that took care of the sick, that took care of the poor, that welcomed the immigrant, that welcomed the marginalized, that helped them. But instead, you've used Jesus as a mascot for, I don't know, your white Christian supremacy, your cruelty, your misogyny.
Now, of course, dude is going into his leftist agenda. And of course, Jesus wasn't real. And you know all that stuff. But he makes some good points. And he obviously, his name is Walid or something. So he probably came from an Islamic background. So he went from frying pan to fire because Islam is just another Abrahamic religion, just like Judaism, just like Christianity. So, he's not all the way there. But watch this. This is so good because this is what happens. This is why Christians don't call in to me. Watch what happens here. It's pretty freaking cool.
And I'm so glad that people are finally waking up to your cruelty and to the idiocy of your star disciple, Pete Hegseth, who keeps messing up and literally does not read the Bible and quotes Pulp Fiction. Just sit with them. Maybe both of you could read the Constitution, read the Bible, and just take a break, Pastor. Just take a break.
Yeah.
Do less.
Yeah,
all right, Pastor, your response.
Just incidentally, we know that Jesus was not a socialist because he could actually feed people.
Womp, womp, womp. Not a great rebuttal. Not a great rebuttal. TikTok, that was a weak rebuttal, wasn't it? But this guy, Pierce Morgan, has Andrew Wilson on all the time, who now runs from me. TPUSA hired him to be their debate coach, but he runs from me. So common logic says if Andrew Wilson runs from Jeffrey Darty, you ought to hire Jeffrey Darty, but I ain't working for them. Ain't no way, baby. Let's roll this thing on. What do you say? What do you say?
Everyone must watch this video. This 10 years old lecture from Dr. Ray Huggins still resonates.
You ready?
This out, let me know if you agree.
I know I'm going to say some stuff, and when I get ready to say something that I know is outside of your circumference of awareness, so it kind of prepares you for what I'm about to say that you don't like there is no Jesus. I want you to understand why Brother Ray is here. I want to say something today that will really begin the process of undoing the programming that literally has disconnected us from reality.
That's my job.
A young lady asked me to prove to her that Jesus never existed or that Moses never existed. It is impossible to prove the non-existence of a thing. Think for me for a moment. If something never existed, how can I prove that it doesn't exist? So I told her, I said, let me reverse the challenge. Prove to me that they did exist. And I will pay all of your living expenses for the rest of your life. And I asked her, I said, you're asking me to prove to you that there was no Adam, there was no Eve, there was no Noah, you asked me to prove this to you. Did you ask your original teachers who taught you this to prove to you then that they existed? No. The answer is no, I didn't do it. I was raised with a belief system. I was raised in a belief system. And I accepted it, I digested it without ever verifying the existence of anybody I had been taught about. Can I get a witness? Yes. If you would be honest with me, you'd have to say, well, he is telling the truth now. Telling the truth, because that is right. We didn't stop to ask for proof. And we grew up believing it until somewhere in our psycho paradigm, it has become our reality. It has become our reality. That doesn't mean it's real, though. It simply means it's our reality. If you believe something that is not in the context of fact and reality, you have a mental disorder. If you believe that Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer had a very shiny nose, if you believe that, as an adult, something's wrong. Religion has done that to us. It has us believing stuff that's got us messed up as a people.
And he's right. That's my message. I was 25 years a Christian minister. I've got a Bible college degree. I preached on 5 continents. Largest crowd was over 100,000 people at a soccer stadium in El Salvador and Panama. I've been there and I've done that. But I got tired of pretending that the things I was told were true, and I started proving them, and I couldn't. That's why I'm the Christian whistleblower. And that's why Christians, including the chain-smoking troll, tiny forearm, can't open a pickle jar, Andrew Wilson, are terrified of me. That's okay, because I don't care what you think or believe. I just think you have the right to know all the facts, so you can use facts to decide what you think and believe, not what people have told you. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Let's move on. So now we're into the deprogram, folks. Now we're into the deprogram. And the United States government has now approved a satellite that turns night into day. A California startup got FCC approval for a mirrored satellite to reflect the sun's rays onto Earth's dark side. Now, of course, that gives light to a place, an area they say will be roughly 3 miles wide. It's called reflect orbit. Why would you do that? It's easier to target things. I don't know, stuff like that. The critics say, man, that's a bad idea because it's going to be hazardous to drivers, flash blindness, wreak havoc on sensitive astronomical observations. So, wow, and wow. What the heck are these people thinking about? What could possibly go wrong, right? So now we're going to jump right into BAPHOMET. If you do have a question that you would like to pose to me, let me just put up real quick the rods ticker so you can see how to get those if you want them. And if you have a question, whether you are on, let me put that rods one a little bit longer, whether you're on TikTok, whether you're on the other platforms, put your question in all caps. Now, if it's a good question, I'll go ahead and interrupt the deprogram and bring you on and address your question. I just ask that you be polite, that you be interesting, and that you adhere to the requirements of the platform, because we work too hard to get kicked off because of your nonsense. So that is there. There's the rods, $50, include shipping, only for the USA. I can't ship them anywhere else, even Canada. Send me an email to gothamltd@gmail.com to order. Also get your nanosoma, because it gets everything out of you that's not supposed to be in you. 3 squirts in your mouth, you're good. I do it every day. And get your Focus Life Force Energy. It actually brings a high consciousness environment to your phone and to your home. They give you a free trial. You don't even have to list a credit card. So now let's jump into the deprogram. Now, I know that you think you know about BAPHOMET, but it doesn't matter what you think you know about BAPHOMET. You don't know about BAPHOMET. And the first mind blower is that BAPHOMET did not originate as an ancient heathen or pagan god. His origins only date back to the Middle Ages, and they are polemical. That means it tries to divide everybody. They are symbolic, and they've been evolving over the centuries into this goat-headed figure that most people recognize today. Now, of course, medieval means it goes back to the Middle Ages, and that's a period in European history from about 500 to 1500 AD. I assert that it was added into history. It's never, ever happened. And that was the time of the greatest growth of Judeo-Christianity, which I lovingly call the fear and guilt mind control matrix. So the growth of Christianity just happens to square with the 1,000 added years of history and go back to what's called the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages. So, and did you know that BAPHOMET was started as a slur, like the N-word and all those other words? It was started as a slur. It actually started in the 14th century when the Knights Templar were put on trial and under torture. And, you know, people say anything when they're being tortured just to not be tortured. But under torture, some of the Templars confessed to worshiping something called BAPHOMET. There was no physical idol ever found. BAPHOMET is really just a WMD, a weapon of mass destruction, a weapon of mass deception. Now, other confessions said that they were worshiping just this bearded head. They were worshiping just this bearded face. They were worshiping a cat. They were worshiping a skull. So obviously, these people weren't worshiping BAPHOMET. They were telling these people anything they wanted to hear so they'd quit busting their kneecaps and pulling off their toenails. Most historians think that BAPHOMET might have been a corruption of Muhammad, which of course was the Middle Ages name for the Islamic prophet. But at this stage, BAPHOMET had no fixed form. He had no theology. Nobody knew about BAPHOMET. And just a little bit about the Knights Templar. Of course, they came around about 1100 or so, after the First Crusade had captured Jerusalem. And the kingdom of Jerusalem had a problem because all the pilgrims were trying to go there, but they would sail on their boats, get off at the coast. Then they were getting robbed and killed. And then this guy named Payens, he created this permanent military order to protect the pilgrims, defend the kingdom of Jerusalem so that they could live under their laws. Do you know initially there was only 9 Templars? 9. Interesting number. Tesla said, learn the secrets of the 9 and you will figure things out. Now, we don't know that there was clearly 9, but that's the way the story goes. Why were they called Templars? Well, because they mainly lived on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Everybody thought that that was the site of the ancient Temple of Solomon. And because they lived there, they just shortened their name to Templars. Now, they weren't claiming that they were descended from King Solomon. They just happened to be associated with that because they were living on the place that people thought that Solomon's temple, if it ever did exist, did exist. And military orders weren't new, but this was the first time that Christians ever decided that they would have an army and fight and kill. You remember Andrew Wilson telling me in the debate, this is why he runs for me and his daddy, Jay Dyer, won't let him talk to me because I got him to admit on camera, and I should have clipped this, but I was working today, where he said, I told him the only reason that Christians play nice now is so they can deceive us and shoot us in the back when they get their first chance. And Andrew Wilson looked right into the camera, and Andrew Wilson said, Jeff's right. We will shoot you in the back in a second. And then, thank you for liking the live, Tululan. And then he repeated it, in a second. No world wars till we had world religion. No shooting people in the back till we had world religion. Christianity only grew because they marched in behind the then Holy Roman Empire. And the priests had a Roman centurion with them that said, if you don't convert, they'll cut your head off. The people amongst our people that had integrity, we said, go ahead and cut it off. But the rest of them grew what is now Christianity. And even today, whether it's Pete Hegseth or tiny four-armed Andrew Wilson who has to get his crazy wife to open his pickle jars, they all now defend Christianity. And they defend the practice of killing people in defense of Christianity. And every one of them says they'd push you into a lake of fire just because you do not believe in their God. We never had that until Christianity came along. The heathen people, if you weren't of our people, we didn't want you worshiping our God. And we certainly didn't try to convert you to our God because, to be frank, if you weren't of our people, we didn't really want you around. You live your way, we'll live our way, we'll leave each other the hell alone. That's what it was all about until Christianity came. And the Templars lived like monks more than this Hollywood Christian identity, Christian nationalism dressed up, like warrior stuff. They vowed poverty, chastity, and obedience. And it was kind of like communism, kind of like the book of Acts. Everybody owned things in common. They passed out the food. You want to know where you will own nothing and be happy came from? Christianity. But Jeff, I thought that was communism. It is. So Jeff, are you saying Christianity is the same thing as communism? I'm not saying it, but you do the math. You do the math. I do have the clip. I just didn't pull it out. Thanks for saying it's an interesting show tonight, deprogrammed tonight. So they had everything in common. They wore a white smock. The Red Cross was added later, and the Red Cross is an interesting study, but not for tonight. But here's an irony. The Knights Templar owned nothing. The individual knight, their order became very, very rich. They owned lands and castles and farms and vineyards and mills and had lots and lots of money. And by the late 1100s, they were operating all across Europe. What were they doing? Well, they were the first group to ever create an international monetary system. They were the first group to ever create an international bank. You could deposit funds in your country, pick them up in Jerusalem. They financed kings, they stored people's gold, and they transferred funds. They were Europe's first sophisticated financial institution. And this was the beginning of the transition from the Babylonian money magic system to the Abrahamics money magic system that we live under today, where they only have $1, but they can lend out 20. You wonder how the economy is so volatile? There's a good reason why. So we're getting deep here tonight, folks. What were they known for? Living on the Temple Mount. Now, there's a lot of lore and teaching within Christianity that they dug under the temple, Jeff, and they found this and they found that. Some even say they found the Ark of the Covenant. They found hidden gospels. They found Solomon's treasure. They found out about secret bloodlines. But do you know that not one of those assertions is backed by any evidence, kind of like Jesus? I'm going to repeat the challenge that Pastor Ray Higgins brought. Call me up and prove to me that Jesus was real without using the Bible. You can't do it. You can't do it. What about Friday the 13th? Well, that's when Philip, King of France, Philip IV, who happened to owe the Templars a whole lot of money, he rounded them all up and he killed them. This is where Baphomet was born. He killed them because of their heresy, idol worship, denying Jesus, obscene rituals, and worshiping Baphomet. The very same reasons why Pete Hegseth, Charlie Kirk, Andrew Wilson, that Nicky guy who I can't remember his name, is it Fuentes? They all say that the first thing they do if Christianity gained power was execute everybody that wouldn't bow the knee to Jesus. Boom, boom, boom. We're also on the book, too. I don't know if anybody's watching, but you can go over there. And most modern historians believe that all these confessions were gained by torture. And, of course, it doesn't work. And I'm living proof that the Bible's not real, because the Bible says every knee will bow and every tongue will confess Jesus. Not these knees, not this tongue. So I'm living proof that the Bible is a lie. So again, no one ever found anything that resembled a Baphomet idol. No one ever even found the name Baphomet written down. There's no contemporary evidence that anybody ever worshipped a horned entity named Baphomet. And do you know that the familiar goat-headed Baphomet, he didn't show up until, wait for it, the 1850s. That's only a couple hundred years ago. Baphomet, you think you know Baphomet, he didn't even show up till 1850. He's not an ancient being. He's a Christian created being to help create the boogeyman complex. And it was a guy named Eliphas Levi, an Abrahamic, who invented Baphomet, the winged, goat-headed, androgynous figure with the D cups and the lower plumbing. We'll make it as easy as we can. And he was the originator of this symbol. Did you know that? Well, now you do. What are you going to do with that information? What are you going to do with that information? And the reality of history is that Scotland was fighting England, right? The Pope was weak in Scotland. And Templars, to stay alive, went to Scotland. That's how we end up with the Scottish Rite Freemasonry. And from that possibility, we get all of these ideas that the Templars found the Ark of the Covenant, that they fought in the Battle of Bannockburn, that they preserved secret traditions. And the evidence for these claims is non-existent, just like the claims that Jesus is real. But yet, they have become modern Judeo-Christian fear and guilt, mind control matrix truisms that you have to believe or you're going to be thrown in a lake of fire. Now, interesting tradition, interesting historical addition is that the famous Robert the Bruce, that was who Mel Gibson was in the movie Braveheart. He actually fought in the Battle of Bannockburn, and they said that he had killed a big knight just hours before that, and that's what boosted the Scottish morale and enabled them to go out and win that victory over the English that day. But of course, the big thing that we have today is this connection between the Templars and Freemasonry. And that's even really, really sketchy because Freemasonry developed in the 17th and 18th centuries, and the Templars were long gone by then. So most Masonic historians just think that Templar symbolism was incorporated. And I happen to believe, and this is something on my list I haven't got to yet, that the original Templars were probably an honorable, possibly an honorable heathen society, and that they too have been corrupted by the Judeo-Christian fear and guilt mind control matrix. There's something I add into that, but I don't know if I can add it in on TikTok. So I'm being a little bit careful. I'm being a little bit careful. And I might have to disappear for a second. Get me some more hot coffee because my sexy wife is a long, long way away. So along comes the Middle Ages, and they start reinventing the Templars. They had ancient wisdom. This is where we get the Gnostic teachings. And this is why, even though I spent a time where I might have identified myself as a Gnostic, it's too Abrahamic for me. There's too much Abrahamic symbology and wisdom, so-called, within the Gnostics for me. But Baphomet, as a symbol, didn't come around till 1850. Are you kidding me? Did you know that about Baphomet? And another interesting question comes up. Did the church suppress these alternate religious ideas within the Templars? You know that the original church was very upset about anybody believing anything other than what they believe, just like the modern church. And this raises a question. What existed before Christianity came around? Why did they do everything they could to destroy all of our works and our papers and our writings? Why did they burn the Alexandria Library? It makes you wonder a little bit. It makes you wonder a little bit. It makes you wonder a little bit. At least it makes me wonder a little bit. Now, did they really dig under the temple? I know everybody says they dug under the temple. Now, there were cisterns and water channels and chambers and walls and stairways under the temple. He did play William Wallace. My bad. My bad. You're right. Thank you, Deborah. But the Templars certainly knew about these things and probably used them for storage and other practical purposes. But there's no evidence outside of Christianity, which I know is a little redundant, that the Templars ever did any extensive archaeological work. Oh, but they found the Ark of the Covenant. There's not one shred of historical evidence that the Templars ever found the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark had disappeared centuries before the Templars. No contemporary evidence that the Templars ever found the Ark of the Covenant. No evidence that the Templars ever worshipped Baphomet. Another theory is that they uncovered ancient writings that changed the church. This is where we got Gnosticism. This is where we got all these teachings about Jesus going to France and Jesus going to the Far East. It's kind of hard to go to France if you aren't real. Kind of hard to go to the Far East if you're not real. Kind of hard to have babies if you're not real. Although as an egregore, I guess it might be possible. But are you noticing a theme? There's no extra biblical, that means outside the Bible for all my Christian friends, that Jesus was ever real or that any of these things ever happened, just like Pastor Ray said to you. So my question for you is, if you call yourself a truth seeker, and most of you do, or you wouldn't be here, why does your truth seeking end at Christianity? You're seeking, you become Christian, boom, you stop seeking. Why? And why is that so encouraged within Christianity? It's almost like they're trying to hide something. It's almost like they're trying to hide something. It's all based on speculation. And I can say without fear of any contradiction that speculation is the lifeblood of the Judeo-Christian fear and guilt, blood magic, mind control matrix. And maybe you'll remember the little story that Jesus told in the story because he wasn't real. He said that, did I clip it on here? Did I put it on here? I didn't. But he said if a wise man builds a house, he digs down deep, he finds a solid rock. The analogy is that you study what you're told, like Ray said to you, and you base your beliefs on stuff that you actually discovered rather than something that people told you, that people told them, that people told them, that people told them. You don't like hand-me-down clothes. Why are you content with hand-me-down faith? It's just a question. It's just a question. Why? I think you're better than that. You can decide if you are or not. Were the Templars connected to Solomon at all? The medieval scholars, which means Christian scholars, they saw Solomon as much more than just a Bible king. He was the ideal ruler. He was kind of a type of Charlemagne. He built the temple. He mastered sacred geometry. He also had great wisdom, smartest guy ever. And he also controlled demons. I thought we're not supposed to mess with demons. But the wisest man ever supposedly captured demons and made them do the work. They even tell us, maybe you don't know this, but they even tell us that Solomon's temple was built by demons. And you Christians, you want to rebuild the third temple. Are you going to use demons too? It's just a question. The smartest guy that ever walked on 2 feet used demons to build his temple. You want to build the third temple better than the first temple. He did it with demons. What you going to use? These are just questions. These are just questions. And I encourage you to keep asking questions. And I encourage you to keep questioning answers. But let's get back to Baphomet. This is what we're talking about tonight, right? Baphomet. Baphomet, as of 1850, became the guy that we know. You know, that guy. But even Levi said, no, Baphomet's not Satan. He just shows us that opposites are going to be reconciled, like Galatians 3:28. There's no race. There's not even boys and girls. We're all one. We're all androgynous in Jesus. Folks, that's called Tikkun Olam. Look it up. Do you know that your God can't get back in control until there's no male and female? Is that a God you want to serve? Is that a God that you want to serve? And you do have a choice. And I'm here to make sure that you know that you have that choice. I can't believe it. Oh, I thought I was at the end, but I'm not. Thank goodness, because it's only been an hour. So tonight we're talking about Baphomet, the real story. We're declassifying this information. And we're putting it out for divine, sovereign, and free people to consider. How do you like my meme guy? Cynthia thinks he's really cool. That's probably why I continue to use him. Let's look at the symbolic meaning, hey Lily, of Baphomet real quick. Sorry you can't see this on TikTok. But Baphomet was not a deity. The Christians present him as a goat, but even Levi said, no, he's just earthly instinct. The Christians picture him with a torch. They say that's bad. But Levi just said, no, that's the divine intellect. The Christians push him and use him to plant that idea of Galatians 3:28 androgyny. There's no male, there's no female. And even Levi, the originator of Baphomet, said, oh, no, he's just showing the union of opposites. And do you know the divine feminine and the divine masculine need to get together? If we're going to get together, get ourselves together, Oh, he's got wings like a demon. Don't your angels have wings too? Oh, there's good wings and bad wings. Oh, I get it. Really? Really? Levi said that just symbols spiritual ascent, that you can rise above. Like, what's that energy drink? The Christians put a caduceus in there. Levi said that just means that you can equalize your energy between masculine and feminine. He had one hand up and one hand down, just like Jesus always does in his pictures, just like the Pope does. And of course, that was showing us the union between the cosmos, which our flat earthers say is fake and G, and Earth. Baphomet, even as pictured, was never a idol god to be worshipped. He was just, in Levi's attempts, a picture of cosmic correspondence and unity. So even what they've told you about Baphomet is not real. Not real. Yes, Kylie, but I didn't want to say it. I don't know what I can say on TikTok, and they're not paying me anyway. That's not even my favorite. That's not even my favorite. But now, the Judeo-Christian fear and guilt mind control matrix has convinced us that Baphomet is an emblem of Satan. They've destroyed the heathen ways. They've imported this into pop culture. And of course, they use the Church of Satan, which is just another psyop in the 1960s, to bring this into the popular awareness. But this whole idol of Baphomet and even the goat pentagram, it's not medieval, it's a modern symbol. And as we know today, it was popularized by none other than Anton LaVey, whose real name is Howard Levy. You do the math. Yes, I have read all those books. Thank you for asking. You do the math. You do the math. I'm watching the chat. I haven't seen any questions. So Baphomet is not an ancient heathen god. He's not a so-called pagan god. And pagan was the word that the Christians put on heathen people. I identify as a heathen. I worship the great Most High of the universe. And I have affinity with my Irish and German pantheon. People like the great Danu, Dawn, Bridget Morrigan, Dawn, my ancestors. And I'm getting closer and closer to saying that the gods as we know them are really demigods, probably our ancestors that start out like us. But that's just part of my spiritual evolution. But now Baphomet, who even Levi was trying to show as establishing unity between heaven and earth. Christians, can I ask you a question? Just a quick question. The Bible says there's only one mediator between God and man, only one go-between. I'm going to have to get out my drawing board. There's only one between God and man. How do you like middlemen, Christians? Do you like middlemen? You know, middlemen cost you money. Because if you got to go through another person, there's always going to be an upcharge. So the reality used to be that there was a straight line, TikTok, a straight line, the other platforms, between men and divinity. But along comes Jesus. And what's the symbol of Christianity? The cross. What does the cross do? It puts a divider between God and man. It puts a divider between God and man. And Jesus is that divider. The Bible says you can't get to God except through Jesus. Who says? Who says? What if you don't have original sin? What if you've got the spark of divinity within? What if you don't have to go on bended knee, but you can stand strong and tall and realize you're divine, sovereign, and free? I'm just casting seed, like Bill Hicks, just casting seed. It's up to you to decide. So Baphomet originally was just a medieval accusation to help a king get out of his debts. Claudette, thank you. She says, I love this show. It's great. It's not a show, though. It's a deprogram. I know. I'm picky. I'm picky. And I'm a little bit tired tonight. So, you might not want to push me because I get a little bit cranky. I understand. When I'm tired. But it went from a medieval accusation. It went from Levi's attempt to create a philosophical emblem of equilibrium and knowledge. And now it's become a universally projected Christian symbol of fear and separation. Can I ask you Christians another question? And yeah, Blood Rune says there's also a middleman tax. I told you it always costs you money. And do you know that if you come to Jesus, he gets 10% of your money? Unless you're a Mormon, there's a second and a third tithe. So you really do have to pay to play. You really have to pay to play. And my question to Christians is, do you believe this because you've studied it out and you've discovered it? Or do you believe it because other people have told you to believe it? You don't have to answer that publicly. But I would hope that you'd sit with that question just for a second. And how does Islam get into this, Jeff? Well, Baphomet was originally used to say, oh, they're worshiping Muhammad. So they create Islam to create another boogeyman. And now modern Christianity says, oh, Baphomet is a symbol of Satan. And I just have to ask you, does that say more about Plastic Jesus and his people than it does about Baphomet? It's just a question he says as he shifts his nicotine pouch. They're fantastic for helping you lose weight because you don't get hungry. And if you want to get some nicotine patches, go to my YT channel, go to my post. There's a link there. I can't get them to let me be an affiliate because I'm too radioactive for people. But you can order them there, save yourself some money, and they give me free nicotine patches. What's better than a nicotine pouch? A free nicotine pouch. So help a brother out if you want to get those things, if you do. So, did the Templars really worship Baphomet? No, they didn't. There's no proof. We do know that Philip IV of France, he was called Philip the Fair, by the way. He is the one that strengthened royal authority. He's the one that united the French crown with the church. You don't like the union of church and state? Well, if you're a Christian, again, why do you want a Christian nation if you don't like the union of church and state? But Philip IV did it originally. He and Charlemagne. He owed them a lot of money, the Templars. So he said they were denying Jesus, spitting on the cross, had these obscene rites, and were worshiping this idol called Baphomet that nobody ever found or proved was real. Nobody ever found or proved that it was real. And remember, even the accusations weren't accurate. Some said they were worshiping a bearded head. And it's interesting to me because Jesus is pictured as a dude with a beard, right? Jesus is pictured as a dude with a beard. God the Father's pictured as a dude with a beard. And that's what some of the Templars said they were worshiping. A skull, which reminds me that the Jesus character, we're told, was crucified where? At the place of the skull. That's what Golgotha means, place of the skull. The place of the skull. Another said they were worshiping this deity with three faces. Kind of like the Trinity. Some say they were worshiping a cat. Rooney, wherever you are, you'll like that. And some said there was no idol at all and nobody ever found one. Nobody ever found one. And all of these accusations were given under torture. So Baphomet was just an accusation, and now you're convinced he's Satan. And something interesting happened. After they created Baphomet and got everybody worried, Baphomet disappeared, kind of like Jesus. Only Baphomet's come back. Where's Jesus at? Sorry, couldn't resist. No cult of Baphomet, no temples for Baphomet, no priests of Baphomet, no writings of Baphomet, no worship of Baphomet. He just disappeared. So what does this tell you? If Baphomet really was an ancient god, we would have seen him showing up. Instead, we got crickets. Crickets. You know, Jesus told the people that were living in his day that he'd come back before they were dead. Everybody gets on the Jehovah's Witnesses, because they said he was coming back in 1844. And they said, oh, no, we were wrong. He's coming back in 1944. I guess it was the Adventists that said 1844. The Jehovah's Witnesses said 1944, he's coming back. He didn't. Oh, we were wrong. Coming back in 1973. Oh, we were wrong. Everybody wants to get on the Jehovah's Witnesses. No, I'm not a Jehovah's Witness. But if you're so mad at the Jehovah's Witnesses, if you're so mad at the Adventists because they set dates and they didn't happen, how many of you Christians were expecting the rapture in 1988, if you're an OG like me? How many of you Christians were expecting the rapture on September 23rd, with Mazzulli and all those other people? How come you're not beating yourself up over that? And how come Jesus plainly told the people that he was talking to, I'll be back before all you fools die? Still waiting. It's skin 30. I don't wear a watch. And we're still waiting for Jesus, and he still hasn't shown up. I got to grab me a drink. Just one quick second. Don't go away. This is exciting for me. I just grabbed it blind on my little fridge. Did I get the Coke Zero or did I get the Mr. Pibb? And I know some people are going to be mad at me. Jeff, why are you drinking that? It's got aspartame. It's bad for you. I know. But number one, it tastes really good. And number two, it really helps me not get hungry. And I got to lose some weight. So if you're fat, leave me alone about the Mr. Pibb Zero. No carbohydrates. I love it. And generally when you're talking, it's not good to drink cold stuff, but nicotine pouches and caffeine equal and mimic the results of lots and lots of protein so you don't get hungry. So, no Baphomet. I agree, Kyle. I just want to live a little. I like it, and I'm going to keep drinking it. So, go ahead and hate me. Remember 1854, which is a 9, 14, and 4 is 18, which is a 9. That Tesla guy was smart. Learn about 9 and you'll start to figure stuff out. It was he, Eliphas Levi, who invented the Baphomet you know today, with the goat head, the wings, the torch, the breastises. Like a D cup, full C, probably D. The caduceus, the hooves, the one arm up, the one arm down. You know, again, Christians, you're all against Baphomet because he's got one hand up and one hand down. You know, he's doing this thing. Or is it this thing? I don't know, but he's doing that. But you don't get mad at Jesus. All your pictures of Jesus got him doing the same thing. I'm just asking questions. But Baphomet was never an ancient idol. And here's where it gets really, really interesting, especially to people like me coming from the Irish heritage. Why do you think Baphomet has horns? Oh, he was really horny. Well, he also had horns because the great horned gods, which I think was actually a stag. That's my stag right there. Do I look like a stag? I see him all the time out here. In the heathen religions, the horns were associated with fertility. They were associated with wilderness and untamed nature. And that's who we are. We are people of the wilderness. We are untamable, baby. Like the great Horatio said, everybody dies. Why are you afraid of death? It's just a part of life. But TikTok says I have a popular live. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I wish TikTok would tell you how many people are watching. Or I wish I knew how to see how many people were watching. Oh, we're in the top 10 of popular daily lives. That's pretty good for a Wednesday. I love it. 99%, baby. I like it. So the rustic gods had these horned features. They had horns, they had hooves, they had animal legs, like Pan. You know Pan? Not Peter Pan, but the god Pan. And the Bible never describes Satan as a goat-headed being. It never describes Satan as having horns. And isn't it interesting what the Bible says about goats? The goats are on the left. They go to the lake of burning fire. It's almost like they don't like us. Almost like they don't like us. But what does the Bible say about goats? Especially the New Testament. In the New Testament, there's 10 verses that talk about goats. And it says I should go to Bible Hub here. That's the note I gave myself. I know some of you don't like me going to Bible Hub, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to go to Bible Hub real quick. And this will be good for our TikTok viewers that don't know how I do what I do. Because just in case you ever wanted to study the Bible, and I'll share this for our people on the other platforms, and I'm going to start doing it just as soon as I can on TikTok. So hopefully they'll release me to let me do this on TikTok. So let me just show this to you, and I'll show you a full screen. This is how you study the Bible. In this case, you want to learn about goats. So we go up here, we get on the right screen, and we go up here and we type in goat, G-O-A-T, and we hit enter. And then we come down here to where it says NT for New Testament, and it'll bring up all of the verses about goats in the New Testament. There's 10 of them. In Hebrews, it says that Jesus did not enter the temple with the blood of goats. We don't let him use our blood, our blood. I'll say blood. Thank you, Claudette. You did go to YouTube and she liked the live. Claudette, tell me if it tells you how many people are watching the live. He didn't enter with our blood because we weren't giving it up. We weren't making ourselves living sacrifices, like Paul said to do. We weren't making ourselves living sacrifices, and we won't. And Hebrews says that the blood of goats are sprinkled on sacrifices. I can't get deep on that on TikTok, but I think you're picking up what I'm putting down. It's impossible for the blood of goats to take away sin. Christians, what if it's not possible for the blood of goats to take away sin because there's no such thing as sin? Do you know there was no idea about sin or original sin until Christianity showed up? What if there is no original sin? What if you just have the spark of divinity within? And have you ever thought that they created this idea of original sin and this idea of the lake of fire to get you to come to them because they got the only savior in town to save you from the sin they gave you? That sounds a tad bit manipulative to me. I don't know about you, but it sounds a tad bit manipulative to me. And then in Matthew, it says he'll put the goats on the left. We all know the left is bad. The left is bad. And then it says that he's going to separate the goats from the sheep. Christians that are, I think we got a Borg over here. That can't be possible. You always call people that don't follow truth sheep. But aren't you the ones that won't look at truth beyond the Bible? And let's be honest. Would you rather be a sheep, going where you're told to go, doing what you're told to do, believing what you're told to believe? Would you rather be a goat? I know a little bit about goats. My daughter's got them. And goats, if you turn your back on a goat, guess what? You're going to get it right in the butt. Boom! Maybe we should team up with these Christians. When they turn their back, we'll go goat on them. Entertainment purposes only. Parody. It's just sarcasm. Would you rather be a sheep or a goat? Because you know your nature is to be a goat. You want to push back. And you can. And it's interesting in Luke, the prodigal son, he said, you never even gave me a young goat or a kid. It's kid in the Hebrew. That's really kind of interesting. Oh, baby goats are super cute. I was holding me a baby goat. I think I got videos of holding a baby goat. Then it talks about wearing the skins of goats, which is interesting because it talks about wearing the skin of sheep. And you know now Isaiah says that the wolf will lay down with the lamb, and Jesus is the Lamb of God. And you thought he was a lion, but he's really a wolf. So the sheep or the lamb wears skins of what? Wolf. Jesus, you've been taught he's the lion of the tribe of Judah. You've been taught he's the Lamb of God. But Isaiah reveals him as a wolf. He's the wolf wearing the lamb's clothing. We goats, it's just as you see it, baby. We don't put on any shows. We're just who we are. Jeff, you should dye your hair. You look so much younger. My best friend since I was 14 tells me that every day. Nah, I'm good. I'm good. And when Jesus comes back, if he ever gets back, there's going to be, the sun will be turned black like the black sun, like the golden age. Why? Because of goat hair. Wow, that's deep. And then 1 Corinthians rounds out our 10 goat verses. Do shepherds get milk from goats? No. Jesus might be your shepherd, but he ain't milking this goat. He got plenty of sheep to milk. And goat stuff is pretty good. Goat cheese. I had some on my cauliflower crust pizza when I was in Virginia visiting my daughter. Was it Virginia? No, it was Tennessee. Goat milk, really good. You ain't never heard nobody drinking sheep milk, have you? But sheep milk is what Jesus needs to stay active in this earthly environ. Go back to the you go on my YT channel and go to the Bloot over intent video and all of that. So that's how you study the Bible. And that's how you can even learn about goats in the Bible. That's my public service to you tonight. That's my public service to you tonight. So let's get back to the D program. Let me stop sharing that one and start sharing this one. And we're heading into the home stretch. So let's go ahead and share again. And we'll get back into BAPHOMET. That's how you use Bible Hub. That's my public service. And I don't own Bible Hub. I don't get paid by Bible Hub. And please don't tell them I'm using it because they probably cut me off. Even though I'm a subscriber to Bible Hub, so I don't get the pop-ups. Moving right along. Is it possible that Christianity inverts things? Even Christian scholars admit Mr. M. Tannen getting angry is a good start. Christianity constantly reinterprets, and by that I mean inverts and projects our heathen symbols. There's all kinds of examples of this. Easy ones like, thank you, Lily. She says, thanks. That was interesting. Pan became the devil. Saturnalia, the most famous heathen celebration ever, became Christmas. They build all of their temples and churches, if they can, over old pagan sites, heathen sites, because they know there's power there. And there's no Christian evidence, there's no historical evidence that there was ever a cult of Baphomet. An Abrahamic guy invented Baphomet, and Christianity has inverted and projected the bad stuff they do onto Baphomet and said it's our guy when it's not. And they've turned this Baphomet into a fear generator. And do you really, this was the question I was going to ask, do you really want to worship a God that says fear is the beginning of wisdom? You don't even want to be hooked up with a boy or girl that you're in fear of. You don't even want to have friends that you have to be afraid of. But you pledge your fealty to a God that says you can't get it until you're afraid of me. Baphomet was created to show us the tension between our instinct and our intellect. Your instinct is, I want to know what I believe, but Christianity says, no, take every thought captive for Jesus, get rid of your mind, and you have the mind of Christ, make yourself a living sacrifice, and you don't even live anymore. Jesus lives in you. Wow. Baphomet was originally about showing the importance of both the masculine and the feminine and combining them within yourself. And now they've turned it into a Galatians 3:28 perversion, which says you have to be androgynous, no male or female. I didn't write Galatians. Paul did. And he also wrote 66% in the New Testament, which is an interesting number. So why does Baphomet continue to resonate? Why are we talking about Baphomet in 2026? Because texts like 1 Corinthians 10:20 says that heathen sacrifices were offered to demons, not gods. You know, Jimmy Swaggart once told me, I worked for him for 18 months. We became friends. He said, Jeff, there's two ways to have the biggest church in town. One is to build a church that serves more people and better than other churches. The other way is to burn every other church down so you're the only one left standing. What has Christianity chosen to do, Christians? Christianity has chosen to say everybody else's religion's wrong. And if you don't worship our God, not only will we kill you, but we'll throw you into a lake of fire where you'll burn forever after you're dead. Christianity has chosen to destroy everybody else so they'll be the only ones left. Me, the Christian whistleblower, says, hey, you're divine, sovereign, and free. Search your own inner being and find out who you want to worship and then knock yourself out. If you want to be a Christian, like my friend Robert Stanley, it pains me, but I've known Robert for about 12, at least 10 years. And Robert was always searching. Now he's come upon the decision that it was Jesus he was searching for. Do I think Robert's wrong? Yes. Do I think Robert panicked? Yes. And of course, there was a crisis involved. How many people ever come to Jesus without a crisis? Stu Peters was a drunk. Cops called because he was throwing stuff at his wife. I joke around saying he was throwing Mr. Pillow pillows at his wife because he said he was throwing pillows. You know, he was chucking blenders and coasters and beer cans. But he came to Jesus so he could get sober. I'm glad he got sober if he still is. You know the old saying, there's no atheists in the foxholes. How come if your God's so good, people only come to him in times of crisis? I was dying. I got cancer. I was in the bathroom at a dirty Alabama rest stop, and Jesus came to me. How come you worship a God that people only worship when bad things happen? Christianity became the dominant religion by killing everybody that wouldn't go along with them. They inverted, reframed, and projected their bad stuff onto our gods. And it's still happening today. It's still happening today. And in a very real way, the Christians, the Judeo-Christian fear and guilt mind control matrix, is using Baphomet, aka Satan, in the same way that Prince Philip used Baphomet to say that everybody that doesn't want to worship their God is bad. It's a false accusation. And that's all the Christians got. Their gods are bad. You're going to go to hell if you don't sign up. Most of the time, they don't even give you a t-shirt. What kind of a religion has to destroy everybody else in order to survive? And that's exactly how Christianity grew, and that's exactly how Christianity is existing today. Is that the kind of God you want to serve? I'm just asking questions. Now, here's an interesting question that I asked. How did Christianity decide which heathen gods they would say are just fake, which heathen gods would be demons, and which gods they would just steal and turn them into saints? Most of our gods become demons, just like aliens. Space is fake in G. All aliens are demons. Sometimes they took our gods like Saturn, Saturnalia. They took our local gods and made them saints. And sometimes they just let our gods fade away. But how did they decide? Because when Christianity was born, imagine it's 300 AD. The Christians live in a world where Jupiter, Mars, Saturn, Mithras, Isis, Sybil, Sol Invictus, countless local Irish and Germanic gods are worshipped. They started looking around and saying, we're losing. Nobody wants our God. Nobody's picking us. They were losing the battle of ideas. They were losing the battle for the hearts and minds of men and women. So they said, how can we survive? Nobody likes our church. They're going to other churches. Well, in Jimmy Swaggart theology, they decided, well, If you can't beat them, kill them. How do you convert an entire civilization? Well, you destroy everybody else's gods. You destroy the people that won't convert. You burn all their books. And you spend 1,000 years at least telling everybody that your God's the only one. And if you don't come on bended knee to the Savior that we created to get free from the sin that we gave you, then you're going to go to a lake of burning fire. Suppose you're a missionary going to a heathen village. The people already got a sacred mountain. They've already got sacred springs. This is why, and that's the origin of the cold plunge. They already had sacred trees. They already had their own holidays. They had a Easter holiday. It was called Astarte. They had a winter holiday, which is called Saturnalia. They loved fertility because they knew they had to perpetuate their race. So you've got the Jimmy Swaggart option. Burn it all down and then steal the good stuff, demonize the other stuff, and burn all the literature so that the rest of the stuff fades away. That's what Christianity chose. And tonight I ask you, is that the religion you want to choose? Is that the kind of person you are? Christmas becomes Saturnalia and you're worshiping and keeping it. Astarte becomes Easter and you're worshiping it and keeping it. And Christians, if Christianity's so good, why do they have to steal their two greatest holidays, Easter and Christmas? Why do they have to steal it from us if they're so good and we're so bad? Why did they take our great heathen places of worship and not say, don't ever come here again? They said, oh no, this is now the shrine. This isn't the spring of Saturn anymore. This is the spring of the Virgin of Guadalupe. And now Jesus gets the credit for our natural, heathen, magical efficaciousness. That means it works. People are getting healed at these ancient heathen springs. What happened to Jesus' 39 stripes? They say the power's in the blood of Jesus, but it's not. It's in the natural heathen folk magic, and it's not bad. And the Christian stealing it proves that it's not bad. It's really good. So what is Christianity hiding from you? Can I just give you a small sample of the things Christianity stole from us? And unless you've listened to me before, you've never heard these things before. Never. Can you still hear me when I sit back? Can you still hear me when I sit back? Please say yes. Somebody tell me. Because it feels a lot better on my back to sit back and relax. M. Tannen, I really appreciate you. He says, this is the only channel that understands. I agree with you. I'm the best in the world at what I do. I'm often imitated, but never duplicated. Thank you for letting me know. And I'm the only one, as I put in another nicotine pouch, and this one's 15s. If you're starting with nicotine patches, start with a 3 or a 4. Start with a 3 or a 4. But I'm into the 15s. Does it surprise you that the guy that starts his day with 5 minutes in 44, 45 degree water and ends his day in a 200 degree sauna, does it surprise you that he's a little bit of an extremist? And I came this close to playing hockey again, ice hockey as a goalie at 63, but my good wife finally talked me out of it. My daughter and son, they're trying to talk me into it. Both my daughters and my son, but wisdom prevailed. So now I'm going to go into the historic European martial arts, sword play and whatnot, throwing knives. And depending upon how things go, those might not be some bad skills to have. Matthew says the Bible Hub breakdowns are absolutely on point. People who can't understand normal thinking make him laugh because all I'm doing is reading from the original text. And we talked about that, I think, today in the cold plunge. Jeff, you're misinterpreting. I always get that from Christians. If they ever do call in, they say, Jeff, you're misinterpreting. But 2 Peter chapter 1 says, interpreting is misinterpreting. 2 Peter chapter 1 says, there is no personal interpretation about the Bible. You're supposed to do like I just showed you. Read the words, believe the words. But when I read the words and believe the words, I mean, did God say what he meant what he said when he had the Bible written? Cannon says, I'm cool as the other side of the pillow. Well, sort of. He said, thank you for being cool. So I'm the bad guy because I believe your God said what he meant what he said. And when I show you what he said and what he meant, I don't have to show you what he meant because it's clear from what he said. Then I'm misinterpreting. I'm misinterpreting by not interpreting. That's why Andrew Wilson runs from me. TPUSA, he's running from me. You should hire me as the debate coach. If your debate coach is running from me, then hire me. I'm better. But nobody's willing to go hard like this against the Judeo-Christian fear and guilt mind control matrix. You know why? Because you end up working a real job like me. Because you can't make no money on any of these platforms if you go hard against Christianity. I don't know. I made 8 cents this week from TikTok. Woo! I actually made $35 on Rumble. You got to figure that out. But I still work a job while they're getting paid to not tell you the truth. But the word logos, and these aren't just little words. The word logos, you know who logos is? That's John 1:1. Jesus is the logos. They stole that word from us. It's a heathen word. Christos. Christ isn't even a word in English. Do you know, you want to prove this? Just watch any foreign news channel, any foreign language news broadcast. You'll hear Spanish, 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 Donald Trump. You'll hear German, 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 Donald Trump. You'll hear French, 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 Donald Trump. Watch hockey. Watch a French broadcast of the Montreal Canadiens. Sacre bleu, sacre bleu, sacre bleu, Vincent Le Cavalier. He's a hockey player. He's French. Bad example. Kachuk. Kucherov. Because proper names are never translated when they're carried over. So why was Christos, that's not a name, carried over and turned into Christ? Because they don't want you to know they stole our word, which just means the anointing and the flow. And anybody can have it if you don't buy this nonsense of you're cut off from divinity. So they stole logos, which is Jesus. They stole Christos, which is Jesus. Even the word gospel. Do you know the word gospel was a heathen word that meant the good news of the victory of the heathens? and Christians stole it and said it's the good news of Jesus. Lily says, you articulate so nicely. You talk so smooth. You're easy to listen to, and you're hilarious. Keep sharing the truth. It's so needed. You're more valuable than you know. This isn't something I do, Lily. This is who I am, so no worries. And thank you so very much. Here's that house on the rock verse. I will show you, he said, and this is the gospel. It's verse 47. I'm not going to tell you which one. You got to look it up. I will show you what a smart dude or a smart dudette does. M. Tannen, I appreciate you. I am really the world's greatest living Bible scholar. There's no doubt about it. Bar none. A smart guy or a smart girl digs deep. If they go to build a house and you're building a house of faith, they dig down deep. They find a rock. They find something they know, they believe, they understand. And they lay their spiritual foundation on the rock. Because the floods of life are going to come. How are you going to learn to swim? Unless you get a flood every now and then. There's going to be some winds and some rains. How do you know what you're made of until you get tested? Yes, AU, there will be a replay always right on the channel. But if you build your house on a rock, when all these things happen, you will not be shaken. When you get deplatformed and demonetized and you got to work, you won't be shaken. When your friends laugh at you and your enemies laugh at you and your in-laws laugh at you and the outlaws laugh at you. Thank you. It says, I'm also looking good. Hey, 63 and sexy. We won't talk about urine therapy, but hey. But what happens if you don't, when you build your house, if you don't dig down deep? If your foundation isn't laid on something that you know instead of something you were told by other people, who were told by other people, who were told by other people, who were told by other people. This light bulb went on for me in Bible college. I didn't have the integrity to get out. I lasted another 10, 15 years, 30 years. I went up to my Bible college professor and I saw his notes and they were like old and yellow and coffee on there, jelly. I'm like, Professor, how come your notes look all chopped? My daughter told me that word, chopped. It means toe up from the flow up. She told me that one too. He says, oh, I've been using these notes for 20 years. And here I thought this guy that was teaching me stuff that he had learned for himself. And I said, where'd you get those notes? Oh, I got these from my Bible college teacher. And this dude was old as dirt. And the light bulb went on. I'm like, wait a minute. I came here to this Bible college. This was Jimmy Swagger Bible College, baby. That was West Point. I won't say his name because he's still alive. I said, I came here because I wanted to be taught from men that have had a personal experience. And I realized I'm getting second, third, fourth, fifth generation leftovers. You know how mama bird feeds a baby bird? She goes out and eats. She comes back and blah into the baby bird's mouth. And if you're a Christian, and 95% of you have never even read the Bible once, you're a baby bird. You're just gobbling up the barf of other people who've been gobbling up the barf of other people who've been gobbling up the barf of other people. What's worse than eating barf? Eating barf that's been barfed and barfed and barfed. And that's what you're doing as a Christian. You've never read the Bible yourself. You don't know what it means yourself. You're a baby bird eating second, third, fourth, fifth generation barf. That ought to make you sick. And you know what happens? Even if you got saved from being a drunk, even if you got saved from hitting your wife, we'll get off of Stu Peters. Even if you got saved because of a medical crisis, I'll leave Robert alone. Even if you got saved because of this or that, if you don't know why you got saved, and if you're not basing your knowledge, you haven't dug deep and found a rock. You know, George Norrie wrote the dedication of my first book, Apostle Paul Antichrist, and he said that Jeffrey Darty causes people to examine the foundation of their beliefs. That was a great compliment, regardless of what you think about George Norrie. But what happens when you have a faith built on the barf of other birds? Well, when bad things happen, and they will, when struggles come, and they will, thank you. That's the greatest compliment I can get. James says that I tell the truth. And it's more than that, James. I tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And it's just coming from the Bible text. You're going to fall, and your destruction's going to be great. Christianity and God's army are built on stolen valor of our people. Nobody likes stolen valor except Christians. So let me take it all the way back to what we've been exploring and wrap it up. Let's get back to great Saturn. And I'll say tonight, hail Saturn. Hail Saturn. Because Saturn was the god of the golden age. Saturn was the god of agriculture, sowing and reaping, natural time, abundance for everybody, civilization. When Saturn ruled the world, when heathens ruled the world, there was no slavery. That's a Judeo-Christian invention. Even American slavery. Did you know that every single slave ship was owned by Abrahamics? Every single 80% of the plantations, even in the Confederacy, were owned by Abrahamics. All the slave markets were owned by Abrahamics. And you're a black person worshiping Jesus. That don't make no sense. It don't make no sense for white people like me because the Irish were the first slaves. And I'm for reparations because first slave, first paid. Where's my money? Of course, I'm joking. There was no slavery. There was abundance. Everybody had all they needed. There was peace. There was equality. Christianity says they'll bring you these things, but just like Islam, only if you worship their God, and if you don't, they'll kill you. And the Christians add the bonus of burning forever in a lake of fire. This is why I say, forget this plastic Jesus dude and hail Saturn. I want to get back to the golden age. I don't like this age. And we're standing right now today on July the 15th, 2026 at 9:45 p.m. Central Time. We're standing at the edge of the greatest time in history. I know it's tough, but it's exciting. We're seeing history's greatest mysteries being revealed to us today. And based on the path that we've been following, Templars, Baphomet, Pan, Saturn, Christianity's rise by killing people and threatening them with hell. Here's a question for you. What exactly did pre-Christian peoples believe before Christianity ever showed up? Kylie with a great question. Since we're now entering to the age of Aquarius, it's the dawning of the age of Aquarius. The age of Aquarius. She says Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. Does that mean Saturn is returning to rule again? Yes, it does, Kylie. Saturn will be back. Jesus won't, unless it's an egregore blue beam Jesus. Saturn will be back. And if you're aligned with Saturn, you're in good shape. If you're not so much. What did the Irish really believe? Because we brought the original heathen message to Earth. What did heathen peoples believe? Hard to tell because Christianity destroyed everything we wrote down. And if we're so bad and Christianity's so good, why do they steal everything from us? And why do they invert it rather than bringing something better? If Christianity is the best, then why do they have to destroy everybody else instead of showing us how good they are? And that liar, Charlie Kirk, Christianity is of peace. He knows it's not true. That's why I say he was a liar. He knows Christianity was spread on the blade of the Roman short sword. He knows that they marched out the priests with centurions and said, convert or die. He knows this, but he told you that Christianity was a religion of peace. That's because he was a liar. Not only do they have nothing better to offer, but they've got to lie about what they have. That's challenging if you're a Christian. And why was all pre-Christian history destroyed by Christians? It's almost like they were afraid of something. Oh, what do you think? What do you think? Plus, Saturn's really cool looking. Before Christianity, the world was alive. There was no division between the natural and the supernatural. Men could go straight to the divine until the cross came along and cut off that access. It said Jesus is the only way. Springs could heal, and they still can. Groves and trees had sacred powers, and they still do. A hill housed our ancestors and otherworldly divinities, and they still do. A river could be a goddess, not just something that was owned by somebody. A weapon, a ring, a ship, a doorway, an animal, or even our own household deities could participate in straight relations with the gods. And Tannen makes an interesting point. He says that Saturn and Uranus, which is in the Bible as Uranus, both are aligned with Saturn. That's some deep truth. You see, nature used to be understood as spiritually charged. It wasn't just physical matter that we could have dominion over. Nertha, or Earth, was the threshold, the doorway of contact between the living and our gods and ancestors. The sacred wasn't confined to a church building. It existed throughout the world, and we lived in it. The cosmos wasn't fake in G. I don't think I can say that word. The cosmos wasn't fake in G. The world and the skies are where we lived and interacted with divinity. Religion was reciprocal. It went both ways. From humanity to God, from God to humanity. It wasn't just based about believing certain things. Well, Jeff, what doctrines did the heathens believe? That's the wrong question. The best question is, what relationships did they maintain? And Christians are all about, I don't have a religion, I got a relationship with Jesus. In actuality, Christians, you've given up your relationship straight to divinity, the Most High God, for a heaven or hell turn or burn with one guy that's not even real, named Jesus. Now he is a egregore. When we offered offerings as heathens, drink, animals, valuables, weapons, we were asking for fertility, good weather, protection, healing, successful childbirth, peace, prosperity, and the continuation of our people. And it wasn't I'll sacrifice a goat and God will give me rain. It was about maintaining our obligations and our responsibilities with our earthly families, with our ancestors, and with all the divine powers. And the gods were just powers. They weren't moral absolutes. They didn't say, believe this or burn in a lake of fire. Heathen gods weren't represented as some potentate sitting somewhere dictating, making a list, checking it twice, finding out who's naughty and nice. Our gods didn't see you when you're sleeping and know when you're awake. They weren't writing down whether you've been bad or good. So be good for goodness sake. That's not our gods. Our gods were like us. And their message was that we could be like them. That message still resonates today. All you have to do is reach out and accept it. I'm going to make some of you really mad because I'm going to go grab my other drink in my little fridge. It's only this big. It holds my creamer for my coffee, which went cold on me. And it holds 2 drinks. And I know the other one's Coke Zero. And I really like Coke Zero. Give me 3.8 seconds. 1, 2, 3. And I'm back. Coke Zero in my hand. I always tap on it because my dad did. Don't tell me why I still do it. Probably because I miss my dad. He's been gone too long. Sorry. Got on my hand. Heathenry was diametrically opposite of Christianity. Our gods were part of creation, and sometimes they weren't even perfect. And now we're told that there's one God who stands outside of creation, who's making the list, checking it twice, finding out who's naughty and nice, sees you when you're sleeping, knows when you're awake, and he's ready to throw you in a lake of fire if you do something wrong, for heck's sake. Our gods belong to the cosmic order. It's not fake and Jose. They just want you to think it is so you won't get these deep truths I'm breaking down for you. We didn't seek to escape the laws of nature. We sought to understand them, and we still can today. Is this the best deep program I've ever done? I've done over 5,000, but this is right up there. This is right up there. And unlike Christianity, we had gods and ancestors and local deities. We didn't have this one mediator. We didn't have a middleman. It was a world of gods and giants. And Roger on Mud Fossil University, who followed me on TikTok, thank you, Roger. Love to have you on. He showed us these giants. There were elves and dwarfs. Every time I'm in the cold plunge, I'm looking for them. I'm going to see them. We had spirits and we had ancestors. There was no rigid biological species. There was interaction between all of the beings on Earth. And there will be again, because let me clue you into something. There's real werewolves, there's real vampires, There's real giants still alive. There's real elves, real dwarfs. And a lot of them are just as fed up with the Judeo-Christian fear and guilt mind control matrix as we are, and they're going to work with us. I've met a vampire. I met Saint Germain at a crazy diner on Gulf to Bay Boulevard in Clearwater, Florida. Yeah, that's Saint Germain, the real one. He dropped some big stuff on me, good stuff. And even bought my breakfast. It was 3 a.m, but we had breakfast. We were all interconnected, and we still are, with our folk and our kin. Doesn't mean you only got to hang out with white people, because there's good people of all races and there's bad people in all races. But we recognize our connection between peoples. We recognize our connection between divinities. And sometimes, be careful what you wish for, Kylie. Be ready. I know you are. Sometimes gods would even marry humans, like in Genesis 6. And the reason that happened is because my people, the Tua, we saw that Rabbi Laitman's people were genociding and killing and trying to take over the good people of earth. And we knew there wasn't enough of us to come down and live here forever, because a lot of us didn't want to. Kylie ain't scared. So we interbred with the divine, sovereign, and free humans. And do you know that even your dead ancestors are still active? You can talk to them. You can interact with them. Oh, that's good. They can help you. Your local spirits. You know, you even have spirits in your house. Good spirits. They don't want to come live in you. And if you optimize who you are, they'll actually interact with you and help you out. And I'm going to bang on the flat earthers, because what Christianity has done is taken people that came to flat earth searching, researching, asking questions, questioning answers. And you got to be a intellectual badass in a good way. In a good way. What the hell do you mean, Mark Travis? Explain. Because your comment made no sense. Where was I? Christianity took these people that were inquiring and it flattened. Watch the last D program. There's a great thing of Matthew McConaughey showing how this works. It was in a movie. They flattened the complex world into just this flat thing. Christianity flattened the world into 2 camps: those that belong to the Bible God and those that are opposed to the Bible God. Because the pre-Christian cosmos contained a spectrum of powers. That's because you know that you ain't got no ammo in your guns, Mark Travis. 4381. And the lines are still open. The pre-Christian cosmos had a lot of powers up there. Some of them helpful, some of them tricksters. You got to be careful. Some of them were ambivalent. Some of them love you. They're your ancestors. Some of them are in specific territories, even your kitchen. But they're consistent. You know what they do. Well, at least you're here listening, Mark. At least you're here listening. He says, I'm just here listening for different perspectives. That's how an indoctrination starts. That may be the greatest cultural transformation caused by Christianity. They didn't just change the God's names. They didn't just steal our words. They actually changed the fundamental map of spiritual reality. M. Tannen asks a good question by making a statement. I don't worship anything. Neither do I. I kind of worship the Most High, but I don't worship my ancestors. I don't worship my gods. I look to them for wisdom, understanding, help, but I don't worship them. Here's a little secret for you, Christians. Any God that wants worship isn't a real God. You might want to sit with that for a minute. We're almost done. And honor was a social reality because we realized we didn't exist as isolated individuals. And our identity included our family, our ancestors, our sworn companions, our reputation, our obligations, our land, our descendants. An insult could damage something real. Mark Tannen, or M. Tannen, hold on, bro, you're going too far. An oath didn't just represent something you said. It bound you to the consequences. Now people say whatever they want to say. Our hospitality, even our vengeance, our compensation, our gift giving, and our public reputation were the things that held society together. And now nobody cares what they say. Back then in the pre-Christian world, honor was the social reality. It wasn't some barbaric violence like Judeo-Christianity has visited upon the earth ever since it showed up. Compensation and meetings among folk and kin were there to prevent the feuds from turning into world wars, and we had no world wars until we had the world religions of Christianity and Islam. No world wars. Now we've had 2 of them. And why did honor matter so much to heathen people? Why does it still matter so much to heathen people? Because our names live much longer than our bodies. Yeah, Jeff, but heathens sacrifice humans. Says who? Says who? Says who? Lily says Christianity ruined everything. I wish we could go back to how it's supposed to be. We are. We're going back right now. Christianity is losing. They want you to believe the churches are full. Erica Kirk had to cancel her tours because nobody was showing up. And if nobody shows up to see Erica Kirk, and all these churches are closing, the Catholics can't even get any priests because we're winning and they're losing. We're right back at Genesis 6. And the God of the Bible has 2 choices. He's got the Jimmy Swaggart option. Kill everybody. Because he's out of option 2. Nobody will follow him. There was never human sacrifice in the heathen world. The only reason we believe that is because the Judeo-Christians lied about our people. To us, human sacrifice was limited to battles. We did fight some battles. If somebody's stealing our cattle and raping our women, or raping our cattle and stealing our women, we would go and have a skirmish with them. We also had capital punishment, but it was reserved for certain capital crimes that were against our people or against the earth. So the real conclusion based on real evidence is that the stories of heathen ritual human sacrifice were invented by the Judeo-Christian conquerors as justification, inversion, and fear porn against our people. And I find it ironic. I find it ironic and somewhat moronic that people whose whole religion is based on a father sacrificing his son, and who says, if you don't eat my flesh and drink my Blut, it's a German word. Google it if you don't know what it is. I'm trying to be platform compliant. I find it ironic that a people whose religion is based on human sacrifice, cannibalism, and vampirism has to make up lies and say that we had human sacrifice when their whole religion's built on it. Oh, Jeff, but Ragnarok was just revelation. No, it wasn't. Ragnarok is cosmic winter. It tells us this society is going to collapse. It tells us everybody that is against the Judeo-Christian fear and guilt mind control matrix is going to go berserker and be unleashed. But they're telling us the world's going to be reborn. The golden age is coming back. And there's not much real pre-Christian literature out there because they destroyed it all. Everything you know about heathens was written by Christians. You can see the problem with that. It's like asking somebody, going to somebody's ex-wife to get a recommendation about them. Don't go to my ex-wives because the three of them ain't got nothing good to say about me. And they're not exactly objective informants. And here's my encouragement to you. Order is not permanent. And thank goodness this world order isn't permanent. And if we fail, chaos will reign on. But if we fight, knowing the cost, the golden age will reemerge, Carmen, after the catastrophe. And the great Horatio said, and I started this and didn't finish it, everybody dies. It's no big deal. But the thing is to die well. Do you want to die on your knees, turning your back on your ancestors and your gods? Or do you want to stand? Because everybody dies. The thing is to die well. And how much better can a man or woman die than for the ashes of their fathers in the temples of their gods? You see, heathen heaven, quote unquote, it's not a destination. It's a journey. It keeps us accountable to the cosmos that they say is fake and G rhymes with Jose. It keeps us responsible to our earth. It keeps us responsible to our folk and to our kin. And it keeps us responsible to our own individual sacred honor. Man, I am on fire tonight. Good job, Jeff. I don't get that very much. And it's a sorry dog that won't wag his own tail every now and then. So Christianity fundamentally changed both heaven and earth. Before Christianity, we had divine and semi-divine powers. We had sacred landscapes. We had direct connection to divinity. We had ancestors that actively participated with us. There was multiple afterlife possibilities. Valhalla, Helheim, which wasn't a bad place. It just was, you need a little more training. Humans and gods were bound together. And we had local autonomy. It wasn't some centralized, regimented religious authority. But now, with Christianity, We've got one supposedly supreme creator, and he's only a godling at best. He's not even a good God. That's why he has to rule by fear. Oops, you saw him wearing shorts. It's business up here, but it's party down below, baby. At least I got shorts on. I'm not going CNN on you. I forget that guy's name. But there's only one authorized story. Heathen gods or demons. Salvation only comes from being forgiven from the sin they gave you. Alden, I always talk about this stuff. I answered your message and said, bro, you got to watch a little bit of my stuff. Well, can't you just answer his question, Jeff? No. I grew up in a household where I say, hey, Dad, how do you spell supercalifragilisticexpialidocious? You know what his answer was every time? Look it up. If I give you a fish, you'll be hungry again tomorrow. If I teach you to fish, you won't have to keep bugging me. I'm trying to set you free. Sacrifices have been replaced by eating somebody's flesh and drinking somebody's blood. The dead now are bad, and death is to be feared. When everybody dies, the thing is to die well. Sacred authority is now invested upon clergy and one book and specific doctrines, and the ecclesial institution of the church. Christianity reclassified everything. It was and is a literal invasion and takeover, just like Rabbi Laitman told us. And when people tell you who they are, I suggest you believe them. But there's a deeper pattern. Christianity wants to tell you that our religion, hey, Pyramid, was primitive. Oh, they didn't have any systematic eschatology. They didn't have a presuppositional epistemology. Andrew Wilson can't even spell that, and he constantly says it. Humans used to be inside nature, not above it, and we still are. The dead used to be members of the community, and they still are. The landscape carried memory. Words and oath changed reality. There were cosmic relationships that had consequences. Life, death, deconstruction, and renewal formed one continuing process. Well, video gamer, why don't you call up and tell me why it's so funny, but you won't because you're scared. We had heroes and honor. That's why Christianity had to destroy all of our stuff.
In fact, we're not coming from here.
Here it is.
We came from there. Like this. This is Israel at their root. So we went through such a route that took us inside by what's called the shattering of the vessels. The shattering of the collective soul.
Who's the chief of staff that sent this command unit?
Him, the creator. Israel is a part of him.
So, seemingly this chief of staff sent this command unit?
Sent the commando, gave them strength, gave them the connections, everything. And if they're connected to him, but they have no choice. He broke them. He shattered them. What does it mean? In order to put them inside the hostile land,
Do you want to be
he had to
broken with
give
no
them the
choice?
same form of that hostile land. It's like we go into a country as an undercover team, and each one of us is exactly like the people of the land. Say we're being now sent somewhere, Africa, for instance. So we'll take on the same shape and form of the people in Africa. The characteristics, traits, approach, interests, everything. The same exact form, inside and out. As we are there, you know, it's like an undercover agent. He is there for a while, no one touches him, he has to start working, build a house, family, everything is fine, okay, for years and years. After that, he starts doing something. He gets a reminder from outside. You got to start working. You know, he already forgot about it. And all of a sudden, they call him, here is your commander, this and this and that. You know, like in the movies. And like in Jason Bourne. And this is what's happening with us.
Who was a spy.
We have to wake up. We have to remember that we have a special mission. And really, this isn't our place. We're coming from a completely different place. So we have to find our friends according to this awakening. Did you get a phone call? I got a phone call. He got a phone call, and so on. And then we gather as a group. So from this entire planet, we are aliens. We're coming from a different galaxy. We received this ray of light, this awakening, individually, and now we're gathering as groups, starting to prep ourselves to conquer Earth.
Sleeper cells. Abrahamic.
That's the mission.
Judeo-Christian
What?
sleeper cells.
You don't see it?
How do we conquer it?
How do we conquer it? We're also sent the method. We're being shown everything gradually. We're being taught. Not taught, but kind of being trained, activated, and then that emotion and mind awakens in us.
Sleeper cells
But in
are
fact,
activated.
it's new to us, but in fact it's coming from our original planet. And thanks to that original natural force we have, we will take over. We'll take over those living on Earth.
There it is.
What are you looking at me like that? You don't believe what I'm telling you? I'm telling you seriously. It's even more than that. It's not a different galaxy. It's a different universe. It's a different dimension altogether. That's who we are.
When someone tells you who they are, I recommend that you believe them. So all this takes us back to Baphomet and the horned devil. Remember, it's the stag, the emblem of my people, the Odahartes, which means the destroyers. And I'm, in the words of the great American prophet, Hank Williams Jr., Jeff, why do you got to go so hard, Jeff? They asked me, Jeff, why do you go so hard? Jeff, why do you turn them into smoke? Because It's a family tradition. At least I'm on here face to face, not like these lying, scared, cowardly trolls. What's his name? What's the coward in the chat tonight? At least I'm not like that coward. I lost interest in looking up his name. I'm right here face to face, going O'Daharte on you. Once the older world of morally complex nature was forced into this binary good versus evil Christian framework, the beings that used to occupy both the real heavens, are not faking Jose, now they've been reclassified as demons. Our great antlered gods, our land spirits, our female prophets, our fertility, they were either called satanic or reimagined, reframed into demonic because they were afraid of us. And unfortunately, we're at the end. We're at the end. And still, like Jesus, no Christians will show up. And somebody said it earlier. I'll drink to that because that means I'm winning. And they got nothing. Nothing. They got nothing. The lines are still open if you want to call. I'll be back on Sunday. And I don't know yet what I'm going to talk about. It happens that way sometimes. If you want Rod, send me an email. If you want to help my work, there's Cash App. There's Why Are Christians Afraid? You tell me. Because back when I was a Christian, we didn't have YouTube like this. But if I heard some loud mouth in a funny jacket get on here and say the things I say, I'd have been calling him up and confronting him. Because I wasn't afraid of what I believed. I knew what I believed. But they won't. That's why they're afraid. Because they know they got nothing and they got nothing to defend. Their religion. And they're hoping that everybody will be as unsophisticated as they are and just keep doing what they're told. I wish I had more, but I don't. It's over. Oh, hey. Little Elvis for you. We're winning. And the crickets on the phone lines are proof. I do love you all. I just think that was corny to say. But I do love you. And I do appreciate you. And I'm not going anywhere. Let me leave you with a couple questions. What if you don't have original sin? What if you have the spark of divinity within? What if you don't have to come to their Savior and hope he forgives you and saves you from the sin he gave you? What if you stand and realize who you are? You can be part of a world that's going to get better sooner than even you and I believe it will. Not because somebody's going to come back and save us, but because we have realized who we are and we are going to save ourselves. SOS. Save ourselves. I got to write that down. That's a good one. That's a great tagline. SOS. Save ourselves. That's what it's all about. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I am Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian whistleblower. The OG of Christian. The Edward Snowden of the New Testament. I'm identifying the cracks in the Abrahamics, Judeo-Christian, fear and guilt, mind control matrix, and virus. I bring you to water, can't make you drink. I bring you to truth, can't make you think. And if you're listening to the sound of my voice, there's a really good chance that you have a place in the last generation of real humans. You can be on the winning side if you've got the guts. I'll see you again Sunday. See you for the cold plunge tomorrow. I love you all very much. That was good.